We get a lot of questions in the community at Salt Strong about what kind of gear we should be wearing whenever we're fishing in the wintertime in kayaks. Now, one thing that's important about winter fishing, obviously, is making sure that we're staying warm, but we also need to make sure that we're staying dry. So that's part of the puzzle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be wearing in the wintertime on the kayak, and we're going to start from the inside out, and we'll go through each one of the layers. So the first thing we need to talk about is going to be base layers. Now, what a base layer does is it actually holds in your own body heat, and we're going to do tops and bottoms. So this is what a top looks like. Now they come in three different levels. They have a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. For most of your situations that you're going to be out on the water fishing, a level 1 is going to be perfectly fine. That's what the top layer looks like. And this is what the bottom layer looks like. Of course, they make all different kinds of colors and you can match them, whatever, as long as they are the right level for what you need. But like I said, in most situations, a level 1 is going to be sufficient. You can go up to level 2 if you're fishing really, really cold weather, but most of us, the level 1 is going to be good. And the next layer that I'm going to put on, it's going to be my pants. These are actually fleece lined, so those will really hold in the heat. Now, one thing that's important about all of this is you want to make sure and use synthetic materials when possible. At all costs, stay away from cotton. Cotton actually has a refrigerating effect that will actually pull your body warmth out of you if it gets wet. So not only do we want to keep the warmth in, we want to make sure and stay dry so we don't have any of that warmth get pulled out of us. So cotton is definitely a no-no anytime when it comes to cold weather fishing. So make sure and stay with synthetics. So moving on to the top layer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear over my base layer shirt. I'm just going to wear a regular fishing shirt like this, but on top of my fishing shirt, I'm going to wear a synthetic hoodie or a synthetic top like this. Another layer that's going to add a little bit of protection. Now, I will change these up depending on how cold it's going to be, but most of the time I can get away with a layer like this or maybe even a hoodie. But again, make sure it's not cotton, make sure it's synthetic material. Now, on my feet, I'm going to use wool socks. Now, the best wool socks to use are going to be merino wool socks. So the good thing about merino wool is it's actually temperature regulating, so you won't get too hot or you won't get too cold in these. So definitely wool socks on those. Now, on top of all of this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my waders. Now, I know there's some people that don't like to put waders on when you're in a kayak. They think it's a little bit risky, but what's important about this is, one, you want to make sure you're dry. You know, the waders are going to keep you nice and dry. If you're worried about the water coming in, if you do have an incident where you fall out, you want to make sure and always wear a wading belt. But that's standard with any time that you're putting waders on. This wading belt is going to keep the water from seeping in down into your legs. So if you do fall out of the kayak into the water, you're still going to be able to get back in your kayak without your waders filling up with water. So definitely use a wading belt, and the waders are gonna keep you nice and dry. So if you don't want to wear waders, you can actually wear bibs. If you have those, they work perfectly fine. The whole idea of this is just make sure you're staying as dry as possible. Now, for the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wear either a soft shell jacket like this or a lighter one, depending on what the temperature is. Now, if it's even colder, you can wear a lined jacket. This one's not lined. It's just a waterproof jacket. But something like that for the top is definitely something you want to wear to keep that water off you, especially any type of splashing or any, you know, if you are running into any kind of rain, this is going to keep your top dry. And on top of all of that, we want to wear a beanie. That beanie is, it's an amazing thing that if you've never tried a beanie before, you know, a lot of us down south, we haven't wore a beanie like this, but it's amazing at how much heat this will hold in. So if we take all of this and we layer this on top of each other, I have actually been wading in 30-degree temperatures before, and with the water temperatures down in low 50s and upper 40s, and I was able to stay warm and dry all day long. So this is going to cover most of your situations. Now, one thing I don't have on the table that I haven't showed you is gloves. Now, gloves are a personal preference, but it is important to keep your hands dry. If you like wearing gloves, then make sure and get some that are going to be waterproof. Something that you can put your hands in the water, let the fish go, or pull the fish out of the water if you have to, but it's going to remain dry. Now, don't get the gloves that when you put them on the water, they actually get wet and stay wet. That is really a recipe for really ending your day if your hands get cold. Now, one thing that I like to do when it comes to both your hands and your feet is I like to have these things. They're called hand warmers. When you open the pack up, they're just a little tiny pack. It feels like a sandbag. And what they do is as soon as they hit oxygen, they actually start to heat up. And what I'll do is I'll keep these in my jacket pocket. So whenever my hands get cold, I'll just slip my hands in my jacket pocket with these in there, and it really warms them up, and it does a great job. I can actually hold these in my hand too, and that will keep them warm. Now, another thing I like to do with these is you can actually put these in your shoes or in your boots to keep your feet warm. But one word of warning is if you do have these, again, against your skin and you only have a thin layer of material like this dry tech material, I've heard of potential burnings. People can actually get burns from it. I've never had that happen to me, but I've heard this before, so just word of warning, just be careful when you're dealing with these. But if you do put them in your jacket pocket, they actually warm up really, really nicely. Now, if you want to try any of this fishing gear, or if you're in the market for fishing gear, we have partnered with big names like Hook Fishing Gear and also Frog Togs that gives our insiders big discounts off purchase of this. And what I'll do is I'll put the links down below. So if you are an insider, be sure and check that out. Now, one thing about this is just the way I do it. This is not necessarily a how-to. This is just how I do it. It does work for me. Now, if you have ideas that you'd like to add to this that keeps you warm, especially you guys way up north, you know, your idea of cold is a lot different than our idea of cold down here. I'd love to hear from you. And if there's any other tips that you would like to add to this, just put those down in the comments below. I'd love for there to be a discussion on this, and the more information that's out there, the better, so we can help more people out. And if you like tips like this, be sure and check us out at saltstrong.com. And until next time, I hope to see you again soon.